Labour's New Deal for workers will not include fully banned zero-hour contracts. I'm going to read into this exclusive from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from The Guardian with the headline that Labour's New Deal for workers will not fully ban zero-hour contracts. This exclusive reveals that revised proposals will allow employees to choose a zero-hour option, prompting fears of undue pressure from employers. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. So why is it important to ban zero-hour contracts, guys? So the reason why it's so important to ban zero-hour contracts is because it gives employers essentially too much freedom over the employee. By having a fixed term contract, whether it's 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever that contract would be, they are fully obligated to work a set amount of hours at least. So they're guaranteed a set amount of pay that's covered in. Under 0 hours, there's no obligation for them to work a certain amount of hours. There's no threshold sort of thing. And it allows the employer to kind of freelance with the employee however they like, essentially giving the employer, in my opinion, too much power. But there are obviously lots of other reasons behind it needs to be removal, and that's the thing here. It literally prompts that fear that it can with the option there. So it looks like, and we'll obviously have to wait and see what Labour's manifesto will say, but it says here obviously that it would allow employees to choose a zero-hour option. So not be forced on a zero-hour contract, but put the option in front of them. That still creates a loophole for employees to kind of apply that pressure to sign a zero-hour contract, because they would rather employees sign a zero-hour contract than actually have a fixed-term contract where they would have to obligate to initiate a set amount of hours to you. Whereas a zero-hour contract, they can give you between 10 to 20 or none at all if your performances have not been up to their standards, for example. It's not really a fair thing, is it? Especially when you want a certain amount. If you're looking to get at least a certain amount of money coming in every week or every month, or if you get paid weekly or monthly, most people get paid monthly, you're not guaranteed an income, a set amount of income, a minimum base income because of your contract, because you don't have a fixed term contract, which is one of the dangers of zero-hour contracts, which is why I don't understand why Labour would leave this option open, and it's vulnerable to employees out there. So let's read into it, you guys, just to hear what they have to say here. So, Labour is facing criticism as a plan for a loophole that would allow employees to work under zero-hour contracts, despite the party having pledged to ban them entirely. Keir Starmer's party is preparing to announce details of its promise to overhaul workers' rights if it gets into power, a centrepiece of its early plans for government, but subject to fierce lobbying from businesses. Labour has repeatedly promised to ban zero-hour contracts, under which an employer is not obliged to provide any minimum number of working hours. But as part of a revised plan, although employers would be required to offer a contract based on regular work hours, workers could opt to stay on 0 hours. The moves have triggered fears of a power imbalance that employers could exploit to pressure workers into accepting insecurity around pay and working hours. And this is exactly it. The IWGB union, which represents the gig economy workers, said they fear anything less than an outright ban on the practice would leave the scope for exploitation. Workers are often forced to accept poor conditions and precarious contracts across sectors due to desperation and extreme power imbalances between employers and employees in the UK, the union's General Secretary Henry Chango Lopez has said. This power imbalance would persist under these new proposals. Labour's New Deal for Working People was announced by Starmer's deputy Angela Rayner, but Starmer and his chief of staff Sue Gray have come under pressure internally to drop the commitment from being legislating for it within 100 days, including from some senior party figures, in order to give more time to consult on the different and complex definitions of employment status. This is not actually MPs themselves who are doing this. This is them. Now, we've talked in the past about Labour MPs getting lots of donations. Some MPs have been getting direct donations from certain lobbies, as well as the party getting a lot of donations as well that are not from unions. This is pressure for this is them applying pressure to the Labour Party to ensure that that employees still have the rights, that for keeping employees on 0-hour contracts. This is what that pressure is. The Invite Union said Labour should explicitly recommit to what they have already pledged, including legislating within 100 days of power. A Labour spokesperson has said, so this is what Labour is saying, we see this as a central plank of the election campaign and what we hope to do when we get into government. The updates to the Green Paper published in 2022 have been agreed by the National Policy Forum. This is what we'll be sticking with and implementing in government. If you choose to carry on with a 0-hour contract, you can do so. It is a right employees will have to have a contract that will not be able to be abused. The law will be set out a minimum standard that are expected and that will be enforced in the way that all employment law is enforced. Other trade unions and the TUC are prepared to embrace the current regulations of a New Deal, which Starmer has promised will not be watered down. So a Labour spokesperson has said here, if you choose to carry out a 0-hour contract, you can do so. So they're explicitly saying they're not banning it then. If you choose to carry out a 0-hour contract, you can do so. So that does not mean a ban outright. But officials said they will not tolerate any further weakening of the proposal, with some business group having been lobbying for. The TUC's Paul Nurek said the deal was urgently needed, adding, we expect Labour to deliver it as an employment bill in the first 100 days. Newson, the UK's biggest trade union, said it was only exploitative bosses that have anything to fear from the changes, coinciding the promise that the measures is fine. But any watering down of the contract won't be, a spokesperson said. Labour is understood to be finalising a dossier for the implementation of the New Deal, combining the original proposal in the Green Paper and the changes that were agreed in the National Policy Forum, the NPF, including on 0 hours. Affiliated trade unions have signed off proposals apart from Unite, which abstained at the NPF vote. Sharon Graham, the General Secretary of Unite, has said that if Labour do not explicitly recommit to what they have already pledged, namely that the new deal for workers will be delivered within the first 100 days of office, then a red line will be crossed. They have said that this will be in the first 100 days. Will they keep to it? Labour's vowed to deliver a straightforward right of access for trade unions and a much simpler route to reconciliation and therefore the right to negotiate. It is a limitless test for Unite. It is a not political, non-negotiable. Labour sources defended the change and said 0 hours had been difficult to define in law. This is about how you implement the headline commit to tackling these explosive practices and so that it works in practice against and guards against loopholes, one official had said. Another party source said they recognised that there could be risk involving unscrupulous employers, but said the legislation would also tackle the concerns by creating a new single enforcement body, which would mean that these would not just be papers' rights. The party is also planning to do further consulting on legislation that will be required for its most ambitious plan to create a single status of worker. Under the proposals, the need to serve a qualifying period before gaining basic rights such as sick pay, parental leave and protection against unfair dismissal would no longer apply. However, Labour is expected to clarify the probationary period for performance will still apply, even where workers are given one-day rights to sick pay and parental leave. The party will also acknowledge that seasonal workers will be a different category when it comes to reforms. The party has held a flurry of meetings with business groups over the proposals, but the clarifications could receive criticism from the left and the party is watering down some of its more radical policies months after it dropped its promise to spend £28 billion a year on green investment. This is the concern. Labour have not kept things, but their argument is obviously that economy has changed and whatnot. But see, this is where the questions are asked about Labour. However, some trade union officials said they believe the party has seen off some of the more aggressive attempts by some business groups to weaken their proposals. We do see this as a delivering an effective ban on 0 hours, one official has said. But they just said they're not. So they've said that people. So they're not banning it. Well, they're not banning it outright. They're basically saying if people want to stay on it, they can stay on it. Is what the spokesperson said. So it's very clear to make that clear. Starmer told delegates at the USDAW Trade Unions Conference on Tuesday that he was not weakening any of these proposals. We will embark on the biggest levelling up of any workers' rights in this country has seen for a generation, he told the conference. That is what our New Deal for working people will achieve. Asked if the plans are being watered down, he said no, and added, We've got the draft legislation. It's ready to go, and I look forward to that moment when Angela Rayner stands in at the dispatch box to introduce the legislation on the New Deal that this movement is so desperately needed and fought for many years. Excuse me. Both Party and Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves have been subject to intense lobbying efforts from business groups, including the CBI, on some of the policies. The former New Labour Cabinet Minister Peter Mandelson is among those who have been urging a rethink of many of the proposals telling a dinner last year that parties should not abandon flexibility in the labour market at a time of technological change. There is no need for 0-hour contracts, Peter Mandelson, and you have no idea what it's like, for someone to be working like in that kind of role, so you should just, I don't know, shut up. The details come after a series of meetings between senior Labour figures and the B5 panel of business trade groups, the CBI, the British Chambers of Commerce, Make UK, the Federation of Small Business and the Institute of Directors, as part of the party's preparations for government. One senior source from one of the employers groups has said, "We're not trying to change the grain of what they want to do. We're just trying to say, if you do this, let's work through the consequences together. You go in it collectively, eyes open." I do think that they are. I do feel that they are in a tightrope, but at the same time, I'm like, I feel like that they're not. A part of me is still concerned about where they're going with this. I don't want people to be forced on 0-hour contracts. I don't want that. People to feel the pressure to take 0-hour contracts. It needs to be as if they are gonna keep some kind of form of it needs to be as voluntarily as possible. It can't be in any way, shape, or form. They have to be offered a minimum contract. They have to be offered a minimum contract at least, so that people at least have a guaranteed source of income. This is why it's so much better than which is why it's so much better than a 0-hour contract, because you're guaranteed a steady income every month at least. You're not guaranteed anything with a 0-hour contract. That's the problem with it, which is why so many people like myself believe it should be scrapped. But I think Labour are trying to balance the books here from the looks of it, but I am very without a doubt, I'm very questionable of Labour and this. That is for sure. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of Labour's New Deal for Workers, proposing that they're not going to fully ban 0-hour contracts, that those who want to, it's very important to state that those who want to stay on it will be allowed to stay on it if they want to. Do you feel that they should be allowed that option, or should everyone be given at least a minimum contracted hours? What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and more in the comment section down below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.